The new year just passed, and it got me thinking, what could a Millennium era Gabara look like? You know, the teal bully in Godzilla's All Monsters Attack from 1969. What if he was given a more serious look that represented the detail that the monsters of this era have? I'm thinking Godzilla 2000, I'm thinking Final Wars. Despite this film being one that you either love or hate, usually having to do with your opinion of this fugly guy, I personally have a very strong nostalgia bias for it. I grew up watching the older tokusatsu Godzilla movies and always thought that Gabara was a cool design for a kaiju. He was much more human-like in his build, lacking a tail and giving representation to the soulless community in the Godzilla universe. But what if this monster was designed during the Millennium era? What if it had a more serious look? And what better way to see this come to life than designing it as a movie monster series figure? Before we dive into it, I just want to thank you all for the love and support in the comments. You guys are awesome, and if you enjoy, please subscribe for more videos like this one. Now, onto the design. The first step is to figure out how to turn this into something that looks more like this. I noticed a lot of the Millennium era monsters take inspiration from real animals and have more jaggedness and detail than their previous iterations. For example, the Final Wars Godzilla design is often described as cat-like, and other kaiju in this era are given more wrinkles and realistic features. This era has a more serious tone, and I'm going to aim to replicate it. Taking a look at Gabara, some things I'd like to exaggerate for this version include emphasizing those also feline-like characteristics, since his original face seems to have a cat snout and ears. I also want to give him more scales around his body and make the shape a little different for a pot-bellied build. We'll also need to adjust his cartoonish orange locks for something less goofy. Let's jump into Nomad Sculpt to get to work bringing to life the new and improved Gabara. First, we're going to build out his basic armature to map out his form. I used references of the Bandai MMS figure to make sure we are staying somewhat loyal to his original proportions. The best way I think this will work is to create something close to the original and then build off of it with the new details. As mentioned previously, he has a unique build like a 50-year-old man that enjoys Ben & Jerry's a little too much, so we're just going to make sure that he has some belly to him. As you can see here, getting the shape right took a bunch of tries, but I think we're starting to get somewhere. Next up is getting the limbs added and playing around with what would look best lengthwise in comparison to the body. I fucked this up, but it's okay. We'll revise this shortly after. We'll get to that in a second, but first onto the head and ears. I think I really nailed the feline-like facial structure while staying close enough to Gabara's original design. Next we'll add in some detail like his head spikes, scales, and skin texture. I love the way the scales and texture came out. And back to the arms here. These arms are really hard to get right. I did a technique where I kind of took pieces and attached them to each other, duplicated, and in the end it kind of worked out. And then these hands were probably some of the best hands that I made so far, honestly. Then I mirrored over the arm, so we had two now. I had some feet, and worked on the hair a little bit. I tried something with fangs to give it more of a Millennium era Godzilla look, but it wasn't really working, so I kind of liked it with a closed mouth. And then of course we had to give him some good posture because, he was slunched over a little bit. Now that the model is all set for a test print, let's jump into my incredible Bamboo Labs P1S printer and knock out a quick 2-hour print of the figure to get a look at what could be improved on. Yes, this really only took 2 hours for a full almost 7-inch tall figure. I've had 2 Bamboo Lab printers over the past couple years, and what they are capable of is insane. That's enough free promo. We're printing this in the draft setting, so it won't be the best quality, but it will be enough to give us a sneak peek at what the final figure will look like. Now that we have our test, there's a few things I'm noticing that I definitely want to fix. The arms are off and almost chimpanzee-like, with the forearm longer than the bicep-tricep area. It might just be that it was printed with draft settings, but I want to go back in and increase some of the scaling to exaggerate the texture for the print. I also want to adjust his feet a little. It's looking a little too bunched up and almost high heel-like. And lastly, there's one detail that I'm very nervous to add, but so excited to try it for the first time. You'll just have to wait and see that one soon, if it works out. After making all those changes in Nomad, it's time for the fun part. We're going to get to painting using acrylic paints. Not so fast. First we have to mask all the parts of the figure that we don't want paint to reach. And then I brought it down to my woodworking shop where I took a Dremel to it and faded away all the layer lines. After that, I actually brought it to my bandsaw to cut down the feet so that it's nice and level with the ground, so that the figure could stand upright on its own. Before we get to the acrylic painting, we're going to hit it with some primer first.
Perfect.
I used Rust-Oleum Sandable Gray Spray-On Primer here, which allows for the acrylic paint to stick. Now the moment you've all been waiting for, the acrylic paint job. I'm going to be referencing this MMS figure a lot. It has a lot of the colors that I'm looking for, but I am going to make it a little bit more realistic than this. So here's what I have to work with, all primed up and ready to go. Let's get right into it. I started off with a very bright green mix of paint for a base coat all around the body to the top of the head. It looks almost neon here, and that was way too vibrant, but don't worry. We'll add in some dark washes to give it a grittier look. At this stage, I didn't know if I wanted the face to be different from the MMS series figure with a tan lighter face shade, so I started on the chest and decided to try the same color around the face. This is where I lost some of the footage, but you could see with the dark wash and some added shades of green, Gabara's coat is looking much better here. I then pushed back the face coloring to match the body more and added some gold to the chest area since the light tan was a little out of place. I tried to keep the detached arms the same color as the body, duplicating every color for a seamless transition at the joints. I decided that the face needed to be darker and added a darker green wash for a colorway that's more aligned with the official monster. This is starting to come together really nicely. Now for a part of the build I was avoiding for as long as I could. Eyes are really tricky when it comes to a paint job, which is why for the past projects I resorted to printing them on directly with filament. But you gotta take risks sometimes. As you can see here, I added white for them, then panicked and started brushing on his gold hair instead. In my opinion, gold fits the kaiju more than the orangey red he has in the movie, and adds some of the Final Wars King Caesar vibe to the figure. After winding up his head spikes, it was back to working on the eyes and adding some black to the nose. These acrylic markers make it super easy to get into the tight details like the eyes and the nose and around the mouth. The way I designed the arms allows for them to easily pop right on. For some added glossiness to the eyes, I lathered them up in some high gloss acrylic varnish with a Q-tip. Not gonna lie, I didn't love the eyes, and I made a manic artist choice to give them the GMK treatment with glowing orange eyes and piercing golden pupils. Let's see how this came out. This Millennium Gabara came out incredible, and guess what? We have, for the first time ever on this channel, articulation. I know how much Godzilla collectors love this buzzword. I'm super happy with how the textured painting came out, and I really think it fits in well as a Millennium era MMS figure. If you enjoyed, make sure you like this video and subscribe for more just like it. I'm considering making some more figures like the Demogorgon and the Tokusatsu style. Thank you for whoever taught me that phrase. It's very hard to say. So let me know down below what monsters you'd like to see next. Thanks for watching.